Well, Professor Natsue, thank you very much for your time. Firstly, I'd like to ask you, it has now become clear that many used PCs are being resold in Japan and overseas with personal information remaining on the computer's hard disk. How has this come to be?
Generally speaking, all computers have internal storage devices. Personal computers also have such storage devices. Perhaps hard disks are the most popular storage device used to retrieve or store data on computers. And hard disks are usually installed inside of each computer. Data of computer users may be stored on any storage devices. It is common for confidential information to be included on such stored device. By the way, when computers are resold to another person, any internal hard disk will also be usually given to the buyer at the same time. If any data or information were completely removed from the hard disk, then this data or information would not remain in the computer. But in many cases, by carelessness or ignorance, data or information is not completely removed from hard disk and remains on the hard disk at the time of the sale. On the other hand, there are very careful people out there who know the importance of the data on their hard disks, and those people may try to remove all of the data on their disks by a process called disk formatting. However, recently, very powerful software tools have been developed for recovering erased data from computer storage devices. Although we like to think that any deleted data should not remain on the disk at all, such tools have the ability to restore some erased data. Thus, in these cases, purchasers of resolved computers may get not only the computer hardware, but also the confidential information of the original owner of the computer. And this data may be distributed to many people unlawfully.
Well, that's very scary, especially as if you go to places like Akihabara, used PCs are being sold for as little as $20 or $30. Now, Professor, what risks do unwiped hard disks pose? Could you give specific examples?
Yes. I believe that there are many types of potential risks. For example, infringement of trade secrets or intellectual property or invasion of privacy may occur. Information thieves may try to obtain such data from resold computers. If the original owner of specific data were a government, and if data were very important and confidential to the government, then any unauthorized discovery of such data could be very embarrassing and would cause huge confusion. Invasion of privacy especially has the potential to be very dangerous. I know of some actual examples of such cases. Many of these computers were sold on the open market, and all of them were notebook-type computers. In some cases, all of the data of the original owner remained in its original condition on the hard disk. For example, email, Microsoft Word documents, Microsoft Excel spreadsheets, and so on. The most important thing is that these files may include very confidential data. For example, the credit card numbers, ID, and password to access to network systems. Confidential member lists, such as customer lists, documents relating any accounts, tax-relating documents, and love letters by email, and so on. I know this in actual cases in Japan and USA.
So do you believe that there are more, for example, credit card information and such being sold in the black market obtained from used PCs rather than hacking, as is conventionally believed?
Maybe.
I see.
In fact, many used computers are being sold at some street of Akihabara in Tokyo. Perhaps confidential data still remain in such computers, and privacy or trade secrets of the original owners are just now distributing through these reselling on street now, today. Similar cases can be found with RISC computers. There are many RISC computers not only in offices of the companies, but also in universities. Ordinary university students may be not so careful. Some invasion of privacy may occur by RISC computers. Generally speaking, users may take an obligation to erase private data on RISC computer by computer release agreements. Users must erase private data by themselves. But many users usually forget the importance and meaning of this obligation to erase their private data.
Yes, despite the fact that it's very, very important and crucial to erase such data. Now, record number of personal computers are being shipped across Japan, leading also to a sharp rise in scrapped and recycled PCs. The law to promote the effective use of resources comes into effect in April, and this requires PC makers to recycle PCs used by businesses. The law will also be applied to PCs used at home 1 year later. So, what measures should be taken to prevent possible misuse of private information in used PCs?
To maintain a healthy environment, the law to promote the effective use of resources is an effective step. But with regard to privacy matters, thoughtless recycling may bring unhappy results. It is important to try to reach a good balance between these two goals. So first, we need to know what problems are occurring related to resolved computers. Then, we must develop and use better measures to resolve these problems. Fortunately, some good software tools have been developed lately to attack the privacy problem. For example, one of these tools can completely overwrite all of the sector or blocks on a disk with another single code. In such case, the original data will be forever changed to meaningless code. I would like to encourage use of such privacy protection tools. However, even if you use such tools, some problems may still remain. For example, one such problem arises because some computer contains secret partition of the hard disk. Such secret partitions are set for the purpose of special functions, such as data caching. But ordinary users may not recognize or even know about such secret partition. So, ordinary users may forget to erase the data on such secret partition. Additionally, there is another problem with the new privacy tools. I have found that some of the better tools are not always easy to use. Thus, in the case of recycling of used computers by a recycling company, I believe that it would be good to require these companies to erase all of the data on these used computers by using one of these better tools. But when private parties resell their used computers, the seller ought to be personally responsible for erasing all of their data or removing and destroying the hard disk prior to transferring possession of their computer to the buyer. I also believe that in order to make more effective use of these new privacy software tools and preserve the privacy of our data, it is necessary that we spread the knowledge about the privacy of data that is stored on hard disks.
Yes, I totally agree with you. Now, experts point to the need to establish a legal framework to ensure safety of private information. So, Professor, what are your thoughts on this?
Okay. In Japan, a bill concerning a new privacy protection law was proposed in the Diet in March of this year. According to this bill, any company which has any confidential information of any of its customers must protect such confidential information of these customers. In order to protect the privacy of such confidential information, such companies must establish privacy policies and compliance programs. I hope these companies will introduce effective measures into their compliance programs. I believe that such compliance programs should include measures to control access to and disposal to data storage devices, to manage the resale of used computers, and to verify that all confidential data is properly and completely erased.
I see. Now, lastly, Professor, could you give us examples of how overseas authorities are tackling this increasingly threatening global problem?
Okay. Council of Europe published a draft convention on cybercrime in February of this year. This cybercrime convention aimed to attack against several types of computer crimes. These computer crimes include illegal access, illegal intervention, and fraud by using of computer systems, crime relating child pornography, and so on. Member states of G8 meeting will discuss about high-tech crime on May of this year. In Japan, unauthorized access shall be punishable by criminal laws. But this is a law for crimes that may come from outside of networked computer systems. Problems relating computer data on the hard disks may occur inside of computer or by computer system itself. Protection by laws is not still enough, and most of the regulators of the world don't recognize the importance of this problem. I believe that it is necessary to research the actual condition of data leakage of confidential data from resolved computer as soon as possible. And also, it is effective to inform adequate cautions and knowledge about this problem to customers through several channels. For example, by broadcasting like NHK Radio, by newspaper, or by explanatory documents attached with the computer system.
Well, it certainly sounds like everybody has to chip in and do their shares, and I'm sure our listeners have certainly become more aware of this problem. I thank you very much, Professor Natsui.
Thank you.